because the topic of this talk is, what is your why? But if you're new with us or haven't been here a while, it's important to know that we think the Earth is more than just a planet. It's a global community. And the Center for Spiritual Living, which is our parent organization, is really focused this year on working to create a world that works for all. That's a big task. And so we have to look at it from our individual point of view. Now, in 2016, the leaders of our organization have chosen a topic for every Sunday that leads us to that. And so that's why this topic is, what is your why? And I'd say most of our centers, we have over 400 around the globe, are using the same topic. So that's the nice part, because we're more than one are gathered thinking about the same thing. It has an energy to it that is life-changing. So what is your why is really, why are you here? Hopefully you've asked yourself that a few times, if not a lot. But in support of that, the affirmation for today's talk is in your program, and here's what it says. I am an illuminating presence that casts a light of solution, harmony, and oneness wherever I abide. So, okay, we're talking about a world that works for all, but this is pretty self-focused. So what's that about? Well, if we can't change ourselves, we're not going to help much change the world that works for all. And so it's really important. I am an illuminating presence that casts the light of solutions, harmony, and oneness wherever I abide. Now, if I say that often enough and I really want to experience that, that's a big responsibility, would you say? A big responsibility. But if you want a world that works for all, we shouldn't expect anything less than a big responsibility. So in this morning's reading that Dalton did so well, that was Ernest Holmes in one of his first books called This Thing Called You. Great little book. I got one used and I thought, oh, it's underlined. No, the whole book was underlined. It's got just really, really hard-hitting words, and you'll hear more about that. So the universe supports us by reflecting back to us what we've been doing and thinking and believing we are. And we either like it or we know there's some room for improvement. So if you're asking yourself, what is your why? Why are you here? We're here to be a presence that lives in every moment knowing there are solutions. There's nothing that we cannot find a solution to, because there's harmony. And we're in this together because we're one humanity. We're all together on this blue dot called Earth. And so we're growing and evolving to clearly know what is ours to do. What is ours to do this time around? Now, we express ourselves in our daily life, and we know we have creativity, but when you look at it from a universal point of view, God is still creating stars and planets. Didn't they just find like 2 billion more galaxies or something recently? And if you've ever had a moment where you didn't know a solution to a problem, all you have to look at is the Milky Way and go, why am I thinking that? There's more here than I know. But sometimes if we're having trouble paying our bills or we're having trouble in a relationship and we say to ourselves, I just don't know what to do, we can get this little hopeless feeling, like we really don't know. And it can be gut-wrenching. A few years ago, I was in the courthouse downtown for a family issue, and I wasn't having an issue. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but I was sitting there in the hallway, and this gal sitting a few chairs from me was just sobbing. And her body was twitching like she was trying to grasp an answer, and she was just in a terrible state of being. And I looked at her and I said, is there anything I can do? I'm a minister. And she said, I'm here because I'm trying to regain custody of my children and it's not going well. Now you can imagine that feeling, a mother's feeling, working so hard to regain custody. And she just didn't know what else to do. And I said, well, as a minister, I know there's always a solution. And I thought, well, that's something big to say. And then instantly, I remembered I had in my purse a pile of Post-it notes. You know, they come in a package, and if you pull them apart, the ones that fan. And I had just that week gone through the Bible. I have this wonderful Bible, and all the positive statements in the Bible are underlined in blue. And I had a Catholic friend who was very ill, and I thought, I'm going to make him some positive statements on these Post-it notes, and he can pull one every day because he was not feeling well. So I had them in my purse, and I went over to her, and I said, I have these Post-it notes, and they have some wonderful inspiration from the Bible, and I believe you'll find your answer here. And I gave her the whole packet. Well, thank you. But I was confident she'd find her answer there. I don't know if she did. I didn't stick around and say, how's it going? But she took them in her hand, and when I left, she wasn't crying. She was just holding them so close to her heart. I thought that was what was mine to do in that moment. So there are no accidents, are there? There's just no accidents. So when we go through our darkest moments, we can always go to the source, God, Spirit, because that Spirit implanted freedom in us, implanted individuality, and implanted choice. We can make choices. So this personal responsibility means we do have connections in the wild blue yonder. We do have connections in spirit, in the universe. And that's really great to know. Now, I just finished giving a class on Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. If you've ever read it, it's a fabulous book. And he has a lot of insight on this topic of, what is my why? Why am I here? Because have you ever thought the world just seems a little bit out of control? Well, I appreciate that knowing this as a minister, that we're all one. Yes, it's 2016. And Tolle says we're all doing our thing. And what we're doing is a channel for how evolution takes place. Now that's a big deal. What we do is a channel for how evolution takes place, or doesn't, by what we're doing. We're a channel. So Spirit created us in this environment, gave us all this freedom, and our thoughts are things, it's law of cause and effect, what we do returns to us, so we are a channel for the evolution of the universe. I just love that. He said that's how a new earth is created. When enough of us know that, practice it, and do it. Now, Emerson said, every person is a doorway through which the infinite passes into the finite, through which God becomes human, through which the universe becomes individual, and humanity evolves. So Emerson said the same thing. Tolle says we're a channel. Emerson says we're a doorway. We're a doorway. But boy, how we get tripped up. How we get tripped up on this channel, on this ability to be this doorway, because our ego wants to identify with things. People said, Mary, you've got to learn to text. I refuse. I'm not going to learn to text, but people love texting, and they love doing it wherever they are, no matter what. But some people get hung up on cell phones. I never turn mine on. I know it's weird. But then we just had to put our cat down last week, and yesterday we got a brand new kitty, and she's 3 months old, and we didn't want to come to church today. So I can get hung up on kitties. But the ego loves to know that what we're doing, what we like, is right, and everybody else is wrong. Everybody else, you're going to be sorry you don't text. Me, I don't think so. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. You know, I had a wonderful aunt back in Ohio, Aunt Agnes. I love my Aunt Agnes because every time I was around her, all she was watching was C-SPAN, the government channel. Hours and hours. She'd say, Mary, sit down. You've got to watch this. Now look at what they're doing to get a vote. You would just not expect that of that person. She was so into it. But what I learned to respect in her is she didn't call them right or wrong. She said, just observe these people. Look at what's happening here. And so this year, I'm totally enjoying this crazy political season. I'm doing it from Aunt Agnes's viewpoint. I'll be darn. Who'd have thought? I mean, nobody could have predicted this. And my Aunt Agnes would just be smiling. I know she would. because it's pure theater, obviously, but it's the evolution of consciousness. Now you take that where you want. But it is the evolution of consciousness, and so the beat goes on. The beat goes on. It does. Nothing to get upset about. The beat goes on. Well, Eckhart Tolle says, whatever we fight, we strengthen. We know that, technically. Whatever we resist persists. Even my brother learned that one. And he's always telling me, I'm never going to believe it, you believe. So whatever we fight or whatever we resist, we're letting the outside world determine our happiness. Now, we really know better than that. So there's nothing to resist in this political season. There's nothing to fight. There's just to be and do what is ours to do. So he finally asked, okay already, do you want peace or do you want drama? And that's really true too, because we create it in our own mind. So being aware of our attachments is very important. It's very important to the transformation of our own consciousness, because we are continually advancing, believe it or not. And it's our greatest protection, because being in the present moment is the safest place in the world. Not hanging out in the past, not worrying about the future. Like right here, we have nothing to be afraid of. Right here in this moment, we could care less what politicians are doing because we are enriching our own soul. So, this is why we typically start our prayers here with oneness. Marilyn, we are all one. We're all part of this oneness. It's like swimming in an ocean together. It's just a great feeling. And so when we state that oneness, we are telling our soul, okay, you are my brothers and sisters. My cat is my cat, and I love my cat. But we're all doing this together. And God created all of this, and we're one with that. And so there's only one thing going on here, and we're all just swimming together. So what we give to that of ourselves every day helps improve the consciousness of the world or not. It's our choice. So it's important to keep our mind open and being a very observant person, because the world was created perfectly. And sometimes it looks chaotic, but you know, if it wasn't perfect, it would not exist for 1 second, because there would be duality, and duality can't exist. So we trust in the process. You know, the universe continues to expand. I love how many new planets they're finding. And there's black holes and exploding stars, and there's heat and cold and noise and quiet and peaks and valleys. And you know what? No matter what the ego says is good or bad, it's not true. That beat goes on. Sonny and Cher, do you remember that? Damien picked it. I said, where did that come from? I just can't get it out of my mind. And he went on his little iPhone, and here's Sonny and Cher 25 years ago singing this. Just this morning, it was like, oh my gosh, maybe I need one of those. I'll let Paul do that. So, the universal intelligence created the universe to know itself. That's what Ernest Holmes teaches. How do you know yourself unless you create something and go, oh, this is the epitome of me. This is the epitome of me. And so we are God's own livingness. Now that's huge. We are God's livingness. We're just not a table or a chair or a piece of carpet. We have been given the characteristics and the traits of that infinite intelligence, and we are living it. And God goes, wow, that's interesting. Really? That's about as good as it gets. I'm interesting. Because are we making good of this gift or not? So we have to look at where we label things. Now, recently I've gotten a kick out of how people label food. That's good, that's bad, that's from the wrong country, that's made with the wrong ingredients. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Ernest Holmes says, whatever we put in our body, honor it. Whatever we put in our body, just honor it. Let it settle in there good, because every once in a while we will have a cookie, right? And we know they're bad. No, but just honor it, because millions of people work hard to feed the world. Yesterday, I was at a seminar downtown at the Reading Library put on by UC Berkeley on how to make food bank food better, how to get it in the minds of people who contribute, whether they're giving good or bad food. I'm like, oh, here we go, my talk. So they had this list of ingredients, what's good and bad, and they had this huge box, and every table had a box of 20 items. And they said, you pick out what's good and what's not good. And it came down to peanut butter is bad. I said, stop right there. How can peanut butter be bad? Millions of people love it. Children love it. I love it. We have peanut butter and all kinds of stuff. And she said, really, take it with a grain of salt because we're looking at the ends, the extremes. Are you putting candy bars in the food bank food? Or are you putting something healthy in? Peanut butter's in the middle, don't worry about it. We've got a long way to go before we're even going to worry about peanut butter. But I thought that was interesting because some people really took it to heart. She's pounding at the jar saying, see this? I'm like, wow, you can get really intense over that. Really intense over food. And the ego loves that, This is right and this is wrong, and miraculously, somehow the world just keeps turning and the beat goes on. So your tastes are not my tastes, and my tastes aren't your tastes, and that's good because we're individuals. That's who we are. It's important to think, not constantly, but what's our soul's mission here? Why am I here? What's my soul's mission here? And Tolle says, I have the answers. There's 3 things. The first one is, where am I? Am I just in Redding, California, hanging out this morning? No, you're in a universe that's perfect, that's been created by an intelligence we totally don't understand, but we know this is the truth, and that intelligence created a perfect world that's figuring itself out, that people are trying to understand their own why am I here, or where are we? So the next one is, who am I? We are unique beings created by this infinite intelligence, and our awareness is unfolding. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Every day we learn a little bit more, and we're a little bit different, and we're evolving in this process. It's the evolution of our soul. And what I like to think about when I talk with people, and they'll say, I just don't have an answer, I will go to the whiteboard and I'll draw this big S, and it's either a Superman or a Superwoman S. The big soul comes here to Earth. Not the first time. But somewhere along this path, I block it out. You're here to move through that block. And oftentimes people will go, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. I just don't do relationships very well. Well, when you hit that block, and I don't do relationships very well, it's very easy to regress. There's no good men and women in Redding, regress. But the soul yearns for relationship. It's in our nature. And so what I invite them to think about is, if you don't get it this time around, you're going to do it all again. It's time. Let's get through this block. Let's figure this out. And it's a wonderful evolution of their consciousness that maybe they wouldn't have tried to think about or even consider. And it's easy to get sidetracked when you hit the block. It's easy. There's so many things that pop up. It's like for myself, I love writing and I love teaching. But I also take Tai Chi. I also do watercolors with Shari. I also volunteer for hospice. I'm also the co-chair of the International Ethics Committee of our organization. And the other day in the paper, Sheriff Borisenko said, we need more help at SHASCOM 911. I'm telling Paul, oh, I could do that. He's like, you're doing enough. But we can get sidetracked and dilute our attention. And it's all good stuff. But Tolle says, where is it that if you have 30 minutes and you go do it, it's your bliss? That's what you're here for. That is who you are. That's the gift you give. And so sometimes I do have to say, no, thank you. But it's important to do that. But why am I? Why? To add my unique individual awareness and uniqueness to the consciousness of the world. And you are too. Every one of you. Your own unique consciousness. It would be so weird if we were all the same. I mean, I just look out here and the talent and the treasure that's here, and honor that, and honor that. Sherry Miller is one of those people, she was here for 9 o'clock, that is dedicated in her retirement time to be the lead of the Parkville Cemetery, where the pioneers are buried out on Parkville Road, and she gives tours, and she just comes alive with it. I mean, she just sparkles with the energy of the gift of that cemetery. Bill Campbell was here this morning, and when he had his last year in teaching high school, the other teachers kept saying, Bill, what is it that you study? You're always so calm and so present. And he said, well, I've got this little book, this thing called You. Would you like to read it? And they said, no, let's get together at lunchtime once a week and go through it. Here he's teaching Holmes at high school. You know, and Shari, with her gift of watercolor, we couldn't sign up fast enough. Not that I need to become perfect at it, but there's something there that draws me. There's something in the world that draws you. So look at where we get sidetracked for that. And you know, the process of communing with Spirit is interesting because sometimes, like when I first joined this church and Dr. James said we're going to have a meditation, and it was 3 hours long. And I had purple smoke coming out of my head, and I mean, I was just in bliss out there in Neverland, and it doesn't have to be like that. I can sit at my table and watch the sky and watch the birds and have a mental stillness that my intuitive mind just is open up to. I get great ideas in that stillness. So it's not right or wrong. It's your own way. So you've probably heard that energy flows where your attention goes. Very true. Because our thoughts are little, I think of them as little packets of energy, maybe like chiclets or something, I don't know. Little packets of energy, and where I direct my energy, it moves at the speed of light, and that's been proven. Our thought moves at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per second. Now, it takes 8 seconds for the light of the moon to reach the earth. So this is power that we have. And that's why spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer, works, because we can do prayer for somebody in London. Whoosh, there it goes. If they're open to receive, it's important to be receptive. So I really think about that because we have this incredible power of our attention and intention, and it begins every day. One of the things I do when I drive into town most days is I say, okay, what's my intention today? My intention is to be joy. No matter what happens, I'm going to be joyful. No matter what happens, I'm going to be joyful. It may take me a few times to get there, but when I walk into the center, I love seeing Sylvia and Lori, and we're joyful, and it starts out a good way. Now, if I'm driving in to go to the dentist, I said, what's my intention? Loving hands, loving heart are all that touches my mouth. I am relaxed in the loving hands of the dentist. And then it's kind of fun to see. Are they? Yeah. One of our friends here at the center lung collapsed the other day, and I was in the hospital seeing her, and she said the staff at Shasta Regional was so phenomenal, and they went in and did things, and they actually put some tape on her lungs. It's a real medical thing. But anyway, so they said, yeah, you'll be able to go home tomorrow, and she called me, and another lung collapsed. And she's like freaked out. And I said, oh, don't freak out. Look at it from God's eyes. You're a gift. Wherever you are, you're a gift. The medical profession needed you to figure out how to do this twice. And with your love, they're going to learn it, and they're going to be so glad you gave them the opportunity. That's looking from God's eyes. And if we can do that, she's just like, calm down. Okay. I'm here, I'm going to do the best I can, I'm going to keep my consciousness at a high level, and all will be well. And that's how it works. I'm getting chills, sorry. So this is how our inner purpose and our outer purpose come together. We have an outer purpose. I write and teach classes, etc., and work on painting. And our inner purpose is that creative part, that consciousness that elevates itself no matter what's happening on the outside. Lynn McTaggart is an investigative journalist, and she's written several books about all this because she said, I don't want any woo-woo stuff. I want to know what's real and has it been researched and proven. And so she has done exceptional work with MIT, Stanford, Princeton, universities and laboratories around the world, and her books are phenomenal. And research shows that the universe is connected by a vast quantum field of energy. Now, we knew that, but she's sharing it with the rest of the world. And what we consciously or unconsciously do impacts our life. I'll be darned, Ernest Holmes. And this is why prayer is so powerful. And it's why group thought is so powerful. And why we're having these topics today that we're sharing with hundreds of other centers. So this morning, I'm grateful to the leaders of Centers for Spiritual Living for coming up with this program. They understand the power of thought. They understand united thinking in a group of people. And I'm just so grateful for Ernest Holmes, who said, I didn't create any of this. All I did was synthesize everything I've read about how the universe works. And he said, and if we find something new, we're open at the top, we'll just add it on in. That's the beauty of this philosophy. And I'm grateful for Eckhart Tolle, brilliant mind, just a brilliant mind. But he describes how to create a new earth, and I think he's really got a good point there on how to do that. And then thanks to Lynn McTaggart, who supports this principle of oneness with research, actual research. So I'd like to close with another reading from this thing called You, and I think the books were already all purchased at the 9 o'clock, but we'll be getting more. Page 113. Oh, Judy's going to play. That'd be nice. Knowing that the loving presence is always closer to me than my very breath, I know I have nothing to fear. I feel this loving protection all around me. Knowing that the song of joy, of love, and of peace is forever chanting its hymns of praise and beauty at the center of my being. So I easily tune out unhappy and negative thoughts. Instead, I dial in my thought to the sunshine of life, into brightness, into laughter, and into the joyous presence of radiant spirit. I lay aside all anxiety, all striving, and I let the law of divine love operate through me and through all of my affairs. Joyfully anticipate greater abundance, more success, mountains of love, and deep valleys of peace. In gratitude, joy wells up in my mind, and life sings its eternal song of ecstasy in my heart. And so it is. Thank you.